I know lots of traders who come from working class backgrounds.
So apparently Piers Morgan knows lots of traders in Canary Wharf that come from a working class background. I call absolute all the negative things that people have to say about Piers Morgan. Give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. When it comes to his show, Piers Morgan Uncensored, it's got to be the most diverse show. He is really bringing people of different schools of thoughts with controversial views and giving them an audience and really fostering debate, even if it's at the detriment of him looking like an absolute wally. The episode that he aired 3 days ago, which was Gary Stevenson versus Dave Rubin. So Gary Stevenson has a famous podcast called Gary Economics, where he really explains his trajectory as a leading trader in London City, where he made lots of money hedging and putting bets on the fact that poor people were going to get poorer and the richer were going to get richer. This particular snippet that we're about to see really explains just the disconnect that people that are in really high positions or rich, should we say, the disconnect they have between real working class and the opportunities that they're really exposed to. So I'm just going to play this and add some narrative to it.
I ain't here pretending to be a good person. I never said I was a good person. Read the book, you can see. But I'm a good fucking economist and I'm going to be right. And you've made your prediction that living standards will increase in the next 3 years. And I've made my prediction that they won't. And we will see in 3 years who's right. And I would tell you right now, I haven't been wrong many times in the past. Listen, you're from my country, okay? You know people that look like me and sound like me don't get a chance to make millions of pounds betting on the economy, okay? There's a reason I'm doing this, because I'm fucking good at it, okay? I don't need to be here. I could be on the beach in the Philippines.
I know lots of traders who come from working class backgrounds.
So apparently Piers Morgan knows lots of traders in Canary Wharf that come from a working class background. I call absolute bullshit on that. There is no way that he knows lots of traders that come from working class backgrounds. Now, obviously, it also depends on what your definition of a working class background is. Being someone who lives in East London and from a borough that has a real high level of poverty. And when I mean high level of poverty, I'm talking lots of households with just single mothers, people on benefits. The list really goes on, right? I am really with Gary on this one. There aren't that many people from those backgrounds that are working on the trading brand.
Who? Name one.
I know lots of the city.
Listen, I worked in Canary Wharf. I'm from East London.
I worked in Canary Wharf.
A guy came up to me and he said, "That's an interesting accent. Where are you from?" I fucking worked in East London. Listen, Piers, I got a lot of respect for you, okay? You're an older man. Nowadays,
that was brutal. That was brutal.
The city of London does not contain working class people. I've been there.
Absolutely right. The way you talk. Look, I'm not saying that banks, and this is just not limited to banks, this is the tech sector as well. I come from the tech sector and I've been in it for about 8 years now. Born and bred in Hackney, literally working just Liverpool Street, which is like maybe 15-minute cycle from here and half an hour on the bus. I have worked in many offices, gone to, not just the offices that I work in as someone who sells technology, but also visiting clients who work in Canary Wharf in these banks. I don't see anyone, I hardly see anyone that comes from my background. So much so that, when I have bumped into people that are from my background, the shock is so much that the person breaks into colloquial language because it's almost like they feel this relief that someone from their background is actually in the same position as them. Look, this isn't to play violins and say, people from working class backgrounds are so, it's so sad. They don't deserve the position they're in. And, if everyone that's given an opportunity is going to make the best of it. No, that's not the case. But there is absolutely a lack of representation of people from working class backgrounds in these investment banks, in the tech sector, etc., etc. In my own personal experience, I think there's only been about 2 companies where I bumped into one person who comes from a similar background to me from a socioeconomic standpoint. And that has to be recognized. And the fact that barrier of entry is so high, and I'm going to go into this in after the end of this clip, but I am also mindful that most of my viewers by now probably have clicked away. But most people from those backgrounds simply don't even make it through the door. They don't even know that these positions exist. But anyway, we'll continue with this clip.
Piers, I've been there. I was there 10 years ago.
There are no working class people in the city of London. Come on.
I worked in Canary Wharf for 4 years. One kid come through once. His name was Tariq. I remember. The only working class kid I ever saw come through when I was there. One, Piers, in 4 years. In Canary Wharf, which is in East London.
Okay, so as you can see, Gary has challenged Piers Morgan to name any. And he can't. Because the truth is, he doesn't know any. And even if he does know one, right, obviously the pressure of just being able to name one up the top of the dome in that moment is a little bit unfair for poor Piers. But the fact of the matter is, actually, maybe I shouldn't say fact. I'm just going to put my own experience out there, right? I've been to trade shows, and I mean trade shows for the technology sector, where we go, every single company is sending their salespeople. You've also got customers from big conglomerate, like multinational companies that are sending their IT people. There are hardly any people that come from a low socioeconomic background. And why does this happen? I'm not saying that there is this nefarious plan, which I think sometimes people like Gary economics can kind of allude to, or this idea that it's all architectured. Maybe it is. I don't like to think that way. But what I do think is a bit like diets where, you start eating a bit of junk food and then all of a sudden you start getting into this rhythm, and then you just become an absolute junkhead where all you do is eat crap all day. That same thing, as in the same way we develop those habits, those type of habits and those patterns in human behavior happen within the workplace, where ultimately you get certain socioeconomic backgrounds dominating a sector. So, for example, in the banking space, they're obviously going to want the best and brightest mathematicians. They're going to want people with high-level grades, and that it just so happens that the talent pool that they source these people from are usually private schools, people that have access to incredible educational systems that actually tell their pupils what these different sectors are, and also invite speakers, or even have the opportunity to have what do they call them? Good graduate schemes for their pupils. But what about all of the other people from a lower socioeconomic background that didn't go to university? Or perhaps they did go to university, they didn't go to the best universities, or they just simply didn't even know what a graduate scheme was, which is basically what happened to me. I went to Brunel University. I didn't know what a grad scheme was, didn't get involved in one, didn't know that was something I had to participate in, and then I had to figure it out later. So the point I'm trying to make here is everyone probably commenting on this video is probably saying, oh, yep, tax the billionaires, that's the answer. I think there's actually, I kind of agree with both sides of this argument, because obviously people like Dave Rubin are saying, no, that's not going to solve the problem. I agree and I disagree. I believe that before taxing everyone, especially the billionaires, and then funding whatever, the services for people with lower socioeconomic backgrounds, before even doing that action, I think rather they should mandate that these big companies and the billionaires actually set up schemes where they send their managers or people from different departments to go and speak to local schools that are predominantly based in lower socioeconomic areas, just to inform the students that these high paid level jobs exist. Just to tell them the stories of how you actually get onto the ladder. And I know that this does exist in little patches here and there, but I mean a scaled out program where companies must fulfill a quota to go and tell these young kids that never rub shoulders with any of these different industries of what the possibilities are. There's an overexposure of the arts. There's, when it comes to people of lower economic backgrounds, they tend to focus on sport. They tend to focus on the arts as means of getting out there and becoming rich, because those are the examples that they're engulfed in when it comes to like TikTok, social media, and music. Those are people they look up to. They usually think, oh, I've got to be a rapper to become a multi-millionaire, or a drug dealer, or a fashion designer. And apart from the drug dealer bit, there's nothing wrong with the other industries. But what if they were exposed to people that were multi-millionaires that crunched numbers, that were exceedingly good at maths? And you said, look, if you're really good at maths, this is a path you can take so that you can also be ultra successful. Or, hey, there's people in our company that literally their job is to buy things and haggle and make sure that our companies get the best prices and the best deals so that we can then buy those services and resell them onto other clients. Those are called professional buyers, procurement directors, right? These are people that also make hundreds of thousands a year, or can make hundreds of thousands of years. Of course, that varies, but just exposing them to different roles, different things that, these other people from different socioeconomic backgrounds may, or better socioeconomic backgrounds, are exposed to, because that's what their uncle did, that's what their dad did, or they had access to these internships or these graduate schemes. What if we can get these companies, before we start taxing them loads, actually just tax them in hours and get them to inform people that would never know about these different roles, that these are actual possibilities. That as an intermediate step before we even get into that point where you tax billionaires more money and just basically hand that money over to our services, I think that would make a massive difference. Gary Stevenson, his in the creation of this YouTube channel, has amassed millions of followers, people that just weren't exposed to the definitions of money and debt and how big conglomerates make money, and they capitalize on downturns of markets, etc., etc. That in itself goes to show that there's a massive appetite for this information. And imagine what we could achieve as a country if we had investment bankers dedicating, an hour a month to go and do a seminar at their local assemblies in these schools and say, look, you see this Rolex? This is how I achieved it. Maybe that might plant seeds into our brightest minds in a lower socioeconomic groups. Because are you really telling me that the system of meritocracy has just decided that there are no smart people in our lower income boroughs, and all the smart people are based in rich areas? I don't think that's the case, right? Yes, there are negligent people in poorer boroughs, right? And I'm not going to say, it's all just because of a lack of opportunity. There are plenty of people that just aren't that ambitious, but there are so many young people walking these streets here in especially the borough I'm in, where there's a high crime rate, where they just simply they're highly ambitious, and they just think, there's just no way of becoming a millionaire, because they just don't have the ideas. You just don't know what you don't know. And yes, the internet does exist, and yes, you can go find the information. That's the beautiful thing of the era that we live in. That's how I was able to really expose myself to the tech sector. We're not all blessed to have that spark. And what if they being these billionaires and these massive companies that seem to get richer and richer and richer, go to these poorer boroughs and at least transfer that information over, show them the possibilities, the different type of roles that can be done. Imagine how that could potentially change the divide between rich and poor. Yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching. Take care.